I'm going to take you rail fanning and show you some great tools that'll help you when you go rail fanning on Ron's Trains and Things right now. Hi, I'm Ron of Ron's Trains and Things, and if you'd like to see more model railroad tips, tools, and techniques, then be sure to subscribe down below and click that little bell icon so you can catch future videos. Well, I don't know about you, but I personally love to go rail fanning. In fact, I was a rail fan long before I even knew about the hobby of scale model railroading. And in fact, I loved watching trains ever since I was a little boy. I can remember being 4 and 5 years old, counting the cars on the trains as they went by in my hometown, and waving to the cabooses. Cabooses? Caboose. Caboose? Anyway, I still love to go rail fanning. I love to see the variety of rolling stock. I love to see the various motive power. And it really helps to inform my model railroading. It helps me to see various types of cars and the shape that they're in at different ages. You get an idea of all kinds of different weathering patterns that you see on various cars and on locomotives. And you also learn a lot about operations, about how distributed power works, about how operations work in switching local industries if you could do that kind of rail fanning. So whenever I get an opportunity, I love to go rail fanning, and today I'm going to take you on a rail fanning trip, but specifically I want to show you some tools that I use and I think will be very helpful to you in your rail fanning ventures as well. So let's go ahead and get started. This video is brought to you by Midwest Model Railroad. Now with 15,000 square feet and one-day shipping, they truly are your one-stop model railroad shop. MidwestModelRR.com, link in the description. The first tool that will be a huge help in your rail fanning ventures is a scanner. Scanning railroad chatter can give you great information on the location, direction, and identity of trains, where maintenance work is being done, and much more. You can even pick up transmissions from automated trackside detectors, which can give you a clue to the location of trains as well. As for myself, I have a Uniden BC125AT, which is one of the most popular handheld scanners on the market, especially for rail fans. It's a convenient size, it has a good range, it's a 500 channel scanner, and is easily programmable to scan specific frequencies that you want. Railroad frequencies specific to a particular railroad or region can be found on the website radioreference.com. I took the recommendation of Danny Harmon on his YouTube channel Distant Signal and picked up an upgraded antenna, the Diamond RH77CA antenna, and it made a huge difference. With it, I can pick up signals from over 40 miles away. I'll post a link to Danny's video in the description down below, and I'll link both my scanner and the antenna in my Amazon Picks of the Week in the description as well if you'd like to check them out. I'm also making a video for my channel members on exactly how I program my scanner with specific railroad frequencies, so members, be sure and watch for that in the community tab. A second fantastic tool for rail fans is the mobile app Rail Guide. This app shows you exactly where tracks run for every railroad in the US and Canada. You can see road crossings and thus find great potential rail fanning locations, and you can know which tracks belong to which railroad and where they lead, so you know exactly where you need to go. The app is also a great reference for modelers, as it includes maps of classic era lines and shows you the early owners of rail lines, and it shows you abandoned lines and much more. First released in 2020, the app is free and is currently available only on Android devices, but I contacted the company and learned that an iOS version is in the works. Now, I have no affiliation with Rail Guide. It's just an app that I recently found and I really love. It's a great reference and I highly recommend it. Now, for the rail fanning trip. My trip took me about 40 miles to Fort Scott, Kansas. There, I was going to rail fan on the Fort Scott subdivision of BNSF's Springfield Division. Fort Scott is in the middle of the subdivision, about halfway between Kansas City and Springfield, Missouri. It's also where the Afton sub diverges and continues south towards Tulsa, Oklahoma. There's a small yard there and a few rail-served industries, and it's a common crew change point. On the way to Fort Scott, I crossed the Missouri and North Arkansas Railroad, a Genesee and Wyoming short line in Nevada, Missouri. There isn't a lot of action at Nevada, but I often see some interesting rebuilt locomotives and a lot of stored covered hoppers and tank cars there. On this day, I got some photographs of former Kansas City Southern SD40T-2, which is now Buffalo and Pittsburgh number 3301, as well as former Burlington Northern SD40-2, which is now Missouri and North Arkansas 8055. They were waiting in the yard for some work. Just a few more miles down the road, U.S. Highway 54 crosses the Kansas City Southern Pittsburgh subdivision at Eve Siding. There I got a rare glimpse at this northbound mixed freight in the siding, but there was no good place to get a photograph. From the scanner, I later learned that it would be an hour and a half before it received clearance to proceed on north. It was only a few more miles to Fort Scott. I proceeded to an area north of the yard, and there I could see from a distance a tank train on the siding waiting to go north. I heard on the scanner that it was waiting for a crew change, but that another train was coming from the south up the Afton sub and would be coming through town soon. I knew a great location to get video on the south end of town. I'd filmed there before, so I hurried across town to my spot. As I approached the crossing, I saw the gates coming down, and I realized that there was another train heading south through town that I hadn't heard about on the scanner. I couldn't get there in time to catch the head end, but thought I might chase it south and get ahead of it as it was moving pretty slowly. The problem was, I didn't know if it was heading on towards Springfield on the Fort Scott sub, or if it was going to cut south on the Afton sub. I hurried a couple of miles down to a crossing on the Afton sub just south of town, and there I got my answer. The southbound train had gone to Springfield, but that northbound train that I had heard about earlier was coming up the Afton sub and into town, led by ES44AC number 5776. I ran back to my video spot well ahead of the slow-moving train. As it approached the grade crossing on the far south end of town, the scanner lit up. The train dropped off its conductor on the ground just before the grade crossing, then called up the yard in the middle of town for a van to go pick him up. I can only guess the reason why. Then the dispatcher informed 5776 that the crew change on that northbound tank train ahead of him was about to happen and that he should hold in town until it got on the road. Sure enough, 5776 ground to a halt in front of me. I thought I had plenty of time to run to the north end of town and set up to catch both trains on video as they left town to the north. I drove to the first grade crossing beyond the yard, about a mile beyond the siding where the tank train was holding. Sure enough, I got set up, and about 5 minutes later, I heard a single blast from the horn telling me that the crew was on board and ready to depart. It would be only a few more minutes before it came into sight, led by ES44C4, number 8183. I'm not sure what, if anything, this train was carrying, but the placards were all empty. After 8183 had passed, I waited for 5776 to follow, but I had a problem. The batteries had died on my scanner, and I had failed to bring a fresh set. Lesson learned. I always carry extra camera batteries, and I need to remember to carry extra scanner batteries as well. Well, I was back to working blind, so I waited. It would be about 30 minutes later before I heard anything, but what I heard was a grade crossing signal not to the south where I expected it, but to the north. Another southbound mixed freight was heading my way. I got the camera turned just in time to catch ES44DC number 7441 rounding the curve. By the time 7441 had passed, it was getting late for lunch, and without my scanner, I didn't know what was happening with 5776. I decided to give it another 20 minutes and then head to lunch and home. After 20 minutes, I hadn't seen or heard anything, so I headed back into town. As I did, I could see the train from a distance sitting in the same siding where the tank train had been earlier. I grabbed some lunch at a drive-thru and then headed out of town. I could still see the tail end of the train in the yard. My guess is that it was getting a crew change as well, but without my scanner, I can't say for sure. Oh well, I had video of it from earlier, and I had had a good morning rail fanning, so I headed home satisfied. As I pulled back through Nevada, I realized that the locomotives I had seen earlier on the Missouri and North Arkansas had taken a cut of stored covered hoppers out of town that morning, though which direction I didn't know. Again, oh well, I'll catch the action in Nevada yard another day. Well, I have to say, this particular rail fanning day, it was a short day, but it was a lot of fun, and I was very fortunate to catch some great trains and some good photographs and video of some rolling stock that'll really be helpful to me, and I just had a lot of fun. I also learned some things. The first time I've ever ran out of battery power with my scanner, but I'll remember that in the future. Always take some extra batteries in your pocket or in your camera bag. Maybe some of you have some tips that you would share about things that you do when you go rail fanning that help you to find trains or to be able to take photographs and video of trains in a way that would be helpful to other people to know. If so, be sure and leave us a comment in the comment section down below and tell us your tips. Also, remember that Amazon Pick of the Week where you can find my scanner and my antenna in the description down below, as well as tons of other great links that I know you will enjoy as well. Well, hey, if you'd like to see some more Model Railroad content right now, check out the links on your screen, and be sure to join me each Tuesday as I bring you even more great Model Railroad videos, and I look forward to seeing you there. 10, Lizzie?